Hey there, greetings to my people from here at the Great Start Studio, where all of my drumming dreams are coming true. It's true. So this is where I'm shooting a video of the entire instructional series here in the studio, the 13 volumes of the London's Great Start Drum Set series. It's printed and the Kindle versions are available on Amazon as well as on my website, which is London's Great Start Drum Set. You can go there and check it all out. All my new videos from the studio will be available on that website for online lessons. Today I'm going to be talking about revealing some of my original drum heroes, what I call the Artistic Influence series. Drummers that I can actually see some of their playing in mine, that they've influenced me to that level. Drummers who truly changed my playing for the better, all the way through. There's some influence there in my actual hands and feet when I play. If in the studio, if I made posters of all the tribute, as a tribute to all the people, it'd just be every inch of every wall would be covered. It's just that these are the ones that have really, really influenced me in some foundational sort of way. So I made these posters as a tribute and a reminder of these great players. They're in my office. I'll be showing you. There's just too many to cover them all, but a handful that have really actually, I can see in my playing. There's so many great players who have inspired me in my drumming, but these are the select ones that have some way become a part of my style, my diversity, my teaching, my writing, and helped me develop my unique voice, which is a hard thing to find. You have to really listen inside. So anyway, enjoy the whole Artistic Influence series, and I'll be running them down, and I'll see you at the end. Hey, so next up on my video series of inspirational posters in my office is Horacio El Negro Hernandez. Horacio burst on the scene with some work that he did on the Modern Drummer Festival, and then Drummers Collective 25th anniversary. I had that, and I mean that's a who's who with Weckl and Smith and Victor Wooten and Gadd and him, and he's got a thing that really turned me right. And once again, at the perfect time for me, as I was studying four-way with all the hi-hat steppings, and then it was kind of like an explosion of cowbell work that had came out. So I was like cowbell crazy. I had like cowbells all over my kit, and foot cowbells, hand cowbells on both sides. And I just really love the funky sort of approach to cowbell, and which reaches over into rock and obviously into any kind of Afro-Cuban sort of grooving. He's got a thing where he can play the left foot clave patterns, and then the and also in 6/8, and it's so attractive because it allows this sort of, it's kind of like if you had a metronome that's just playing in quarter notes, a cowbell, just clicking along in quarter notes. And then you get to play kind of solo across this quarter notes. Well, the quarter notes kind of ground it in a grid so like when you learn how to play quarter notes, let's say on your hi-hat as steps, right? This goes back like in the 70s when they would do it on the bass drum. So the bass drum would be doing it just chord notes, and then they would play with mostly just with their two hands, but play around the drums in soloing so that you could create melodies that way. But when you have your left foot doing quarter notes, let's say, then you have three limbs, which includes your bass drum, to contribute. And that's much more the way we do fills now, is it's much more integrated. And so you have a lot of things you can say. Well, if you bump that quarter note up to eighth notes, or it actually becomes a variant rhythm, like the clave patterns, those patterns make it so much wildly more interesting. But also, you're actually working within the 16th note grid that is representing the 16th note grid on the us as it moves into the us. That creates complications that are enormous for your other three limbs to play freely against. I got completely hooked on this. He's got a zillion ways of playing it so freely that once again, you look at it and you go, I want to be that free. That's what we're trying to emulate. We're not trying to rip people off. I mean, I suppose some people try to rip people off and just try to, step in their shoes and kind of pretend that they're them. That's not me at all. When I see somebody, this goes all the way back to the Rush days, where every time a Rush album would come out, you would learn how it is he was playing it. And then your very next thought, my very next thought, was, okay, now what am I going to do with that as an artist? What am I going to do with that kind of idea towards my freedom of expression? And so this is how Horacio affected me in the four-way freedom, where you're just like, man, I want to be that free, so incredibly free. He had a book called Conversations in Clave, and I just dissected that thing for a long time. That's an excellent book. And once again, walking through visually the layups of how these notes fall against the clave, and that's your left foot in this setting. It really affected me in a mechanical sort of way on the drums. And I mean, when I say mechanical, I mean in the mechanics of how notes line up. That it's a very complicated sort of lineup when you're trying to play freely against it. And I owe that to him, this book and his work. If you want to check out some crazy work, just check out anything with him, with Michael Camilo, I think is how you say his name. It's unbelievable, because Michael is an extraordinarily rhythmic pianist that allows Horacio to play wildly, basically, because they are playing very, very fast with all of these completely clear rhythmic phrases, both of them, right? So that just becomes a rhythmic smorgasbord of colors that are coming at you in every kind of way. He'll Horacio will play where he likes multi-voicing a lot, and that's where you take a limb, and instead of just playing one sound, like maybe a ride, he'll have it come across between a couple of the wood blocks and then to the tom, and then his left will be doing the same thing. He'll be doing hi-hat openings, so his left will come over to the snare, and he is playing very percussively, in a sense, on the drum set, but it's still drum set oriented with like backbeats and that's where, like I said, there was this convergence for me of ideas as I'd passed through Future Sounds and Linear Time Playing, and then this Conversations in Clave. They all came together in the same era of playing that I was reaching in every direction, like where you're just like obsessed with the stylistic wheel. And Horacio has a lot to say in those ways. He also plays very very dense with his layerings of notes, but also very fill-oriented. Lots of ornamented sort of fills that are constantly flowing in and out of these complicated, dense, sort of four-way, authentic sort of grooves. And that, once again, there's that freedom that you just want to emulate into your playing. You want to, he makes it, of course, look so easy. He's always smiling away. And you just want to express yourself without restriction. I think that's our ultimate goal, is to just be able to get past all of the burden of how, and then just say, okay, now what? What am I choosing off of this smorgasbord, off of this giant palette of colors? And I was always a color guy. I got color everywhere. And we always had these doodle art things that my parents would buy, and all the pins. And I couldn't wait to get, even if I got the same ones, to try different color combinations. You just couldn't have enough colors. It's just, you just need more colors. It's like it's a different kind of exercise to basically say, everybody goes to the class, they go to the class and they say, hey, we want you to draw you know, an apple on a table, and you get a red crayon on this. Everybody's using the same piece of paper. Everybody has the same kind of crayon. That's one type of art, because you have to be really good at mapping out just what you can do, what is possible with just one color. It'd be kind of like if you really just had this one kind of groove and you were just trying to figure out all the different ways to play this one kind of groove with a certain kind of backbeat, or even just like a smaller kit, right? And you just go, what can I do with just a snare and a floor tom and a bass, right? What can I do with a hi-hat and a snare and a bass? And you just have to, you're forced into this smaller box to be creative. That's an art. That's an art to itself. There's a totally different kind of art on the other end where you have many sounds to choose from. It adds a complexity and a detailing, a different kind of detailing, that is just the other end of that spectrum. And what I think all the great players do, it's like we were talking about Vinny and such, is they can play on any end of that spectrum. Any end of that spectrum they're hired to do. They have the discipline and the awareness and the ability, the skills that they've developed to choose any of those colors. Maybe sometime just that red crayon is it. Maybe that is actually it. You know, maybe it's just your hand and a brush on a snare drum and that's the recording. And then maybe it's not. Maybe it's, you know, Mike Mangini's kit or Terry Bozzio's kit, or, you know, it's where you have to have more sounds to express that kind of thing, because nothing else will do it. And you just go, that is the full spectrum, as I say, right? To be a full spectrum player, to have the discipline, the awareness. Horacio was part of that for me, of the multi-voicing that he's got going in this very percussive four-way clave type playing that is so free. You just want to be that free, even if you don't ultimately, you know, try to sound like that. It's the freedom. It is the absolute freedom to just go, I could choose part of that if I wanted to. I can leave it if I want to. Horacio, you've done such great work, and these videos are a tribute to all my inspirations that have affected my playing, and I thank you. My life is totally different because of your playing and your books. Thank you.